Hi, today is February 23rd, 2021. I am Michael Walsh. I am here with Shauna Soldier, and we work at the Yonkers Public Library. We are interviewing Dale Rascoe as part of the African American Oral History Project. So, welcome, Dale. So, Dale, where did you grow up?
Here in Westchester County, Ossining, New York.
And who did you grow up with?
My family, my mother, father, brother, we were there in Ossining. And the funny story is that we ended up in a house approximately 4 doors down from Sing Sing prison. So when I grew up, we'd play hide and go seek and dare. And there was some kind of a chair there that looked really, really old on the premises of Sing Sing, about in the front there, and it wasn't well managed in the front at that time. And we used to dare each other to sit on it and pretend it was the old um, electrocution chair. So I have fond memories of growing up there. And it was my father, my brother, my mother, and myself.
What are some of your memories of Ossining, like besides Sing Sing? Like, what was like the neighborhood like?
It was a changing neighborhood, as so many other neighborhoods do change. You have the original residents that are there, and then after that, you have people that aspire to come up in society, to have more money, and to have a better life for their children. So when we moved in, there were primarily Italians there, and they finished their rise in that, and they left. The blacks came in and we purchased homes. So then it became a black neighborhood. My cousin and her mother, my auntie, were on the left. My uncle, his children, were on the right. So it was Rascoe, and then Wesley, all three together on the corner. Another of the Rascoe family was there, my auntie. So, as in many situations, when you have African Americans and people that are from a strong bond, you had to be very careful about what you did. If you were in school and Mrs. So and so heard you messed up, be careful on that walk home. You walk past one auntie's house and she'd grab you and chastise you, then you get down a little bit further and they grab you. So it truly was a village, and we believed in the concept of our children need all of the adults and people present to help to raise them. So it was rather close knit, and you, if you did wrong, you better make sure no one saw you.
What were some of the schools that you attended in Ossining?
The elementary school, Park School, and I'm doing a middle school, junior high and high school were all in the same building. And and then there was the Ossining Daycare Center. I think I was 3 or 4, and Wendy Miller and I met then, and here we are centuries later, and we're still good friends. So yeah, the village gave me a lifelong friend, and I'm very happy for that.
Oh, that's nice. Did you attend church growing up?
Oh yeah, Sunday school.
Oh,
And
good.
I think that Sunday school, it had an effect on me in that it was something that was part of my culture and something that I knew was a must, but I didn't really understand the full impact of it, social impact, cultural impact, the religious impact, until many, many years later. So it was as though it's something that must be done, but the full import of why and its significance wasn't there as much as you go to Sunday school every Sunday. And I attended Star Bethlehem Baptist Church on Spring Street.
What did you enjoy doing in your spare time growing up?
Chasing boys, eating, cooking. Those are the primary things. And I was afraid of books when I was growing up. When I read a book, it took my mind. And I entered a world of fascination, and I was engrossed in it. And I really, I feared that because a lot of my contemporaries, they didn't have that same fascination, and I didn't want to be different. I was already different. I was skinny. I didn't have anything, and I didn't want to. And I had short hair. My hair wouldn't grow, so I didn't want to, on top of that, be the kid who loved books. So books scared me, and I did my best to have very few of them, to stay away from them, and to not let myself be lured by books.
Did you experience any racial discrimination or prejudice growing up?
Oh, absolutely. Sure. I grew up in the 50s, so everything from the curriculum in school to how you conducted yourself in school, around school, all of that was racist. But it wasn't as though my instructors set out to say, we're going to make your life miserable. We're going to inculcate you with every form of dehumanizing you as possible. I think for the most part, they just didn't know. One thing in the curriculum that when I understood better, I knew it was wrong, and it shouldn't have been in the curriculum, and it shouldn't have been something that I needed to embrace. And that was when we studied Little Black Sambo. So all the white kids in the room, they were reading parts of the story. I was so embarrassed. I didn't fully understand why, but I felt badly about it because here's this Little Black Sambo, kind of maleish, kind of femaleish, exaggerated lips and the pickaninny hairstyle. So I thought, this is terrible. I don't look anything like this. And poor Black Sambo's so stupid that he couldn't keep the flour in the sack or the butter in the container, whatever. Black Sambo had problems. And I just cowered when it came my time to read. And again, that I was caught between, I cannot identify with this figure. Why, white teacher, are you making me read this? So that's a small part of how the racism affected me as a child. But then you had the larger scope, anything from you dare not date a white guy, which my girlfriend's sister made the mistake of doing. And brothers got a hold of the guy. The white guy beat the doo out of him. So, and then things even larger as to what track are you going to be put into? Are you going to be put into a track where you might learn mechanics for school? Or will the school put you in a track that is major in home ec? So you learn the correct way to open the pill bottles, or if they deemed that you were able to handle the material, you would be on the fast track or the A level for college. And the way they made those choices then were not informed from a place of, we understand what's happening in your culture, or we understand what's happening with you. It was more of the standard being what they really did know, and seeing how to fit in with that standard. And and now we really don't. That is to say, many, many, many Black people today from a particular socioeconomic group and demographics do not fit in with what many of the white teachers see as a standard. So we're going to always be misjudged, underrated, misdiagnosed, ADHD, thought to be ineducable, that we're just not able to conduct ourselves in a standard way and have the same score on the IQ test, all of that. So the racism there was, it was oppressive, and it didn't help me to have a better identity. But later in life, when I understood it and what was happening, that was very good. What a blessing to be able to later in life understand all of those things that happened to me then. So, big, big yes. Racism then was, it was present.
When did you become involved in the Black Power, in one of the Black Power movements?
You know, one of the things that I would allow myself to read was the Black Panther newspaper as a youth. I'm going to say maybe 15 or so. So my friend and I would go to Harlem, we'd get the newspaper, and I, not being able to read it around my mother and father, if you can imagine that, reading a Black Panther newspaper in their home, their working class home, no. So I had to hide and go in my closet and read it, or shut the door in my bedroom. So I wasn't a member. I was aware of it. I wasn't involved. I was much too young, and I was in high school, but I just knew it was the answer to things like, how can the world justify children that are so poor they don't have any shoes? What the hell? Children going to bed hungry, waking up hungry, not doing well in school. I just knew that so many Black children couldn't be stupid. So that there were contributing factors, and getting in contact with the Black Power movement and the Black Panther Party, it showed me that yes, there are reasons that the stats show that this is where we're at. And there's also a reason behind why it's necessary that those stats generate those kind of numbers. And then there is behind that a reason why they're so easily able to do it. How it is, for example, that you can have a child be hungry, that the government, by not meeting that need of the hunger and the food, so that void, by them not needing it, it made it, or also all of the other factors. But if we talk about why a child is hungry, we talk about how the government wasn't doing what it could have done to intervene to help with that, how the community around it had a certain air or level of frustration and depression with the economy, with housing, and how the child may have been third or fourth generation of a family that wasn't accustomed to managing those few things that they had in such a way that they would be able to think things like, if I do well in school, I'll go on to college. Maybe there wasn't anyone in their family, the lines, that had gone on to college. So the powers that be, they understood the importance of having a hard, how it prepared you for a day that fulfilling in school. And so with them having this knowledge and not moving ahead to make sure that that void was something that they were able to fill, they were able to not only have people not do well in school and suffer from that, be hungry, which no one wants, but also they could maintain their place of, let's call it superiority in the world and in the system, because, you know, knowledge is power. And if you have the knowledge, you have the power. So I thought to myself, without really understanding the full implications of it, I thought, well, there's a bunch of people that have a lot of money. And in Westchester County, you have some of those suburbs that Pleasantville, Scarborough, Hastings on the Hudson was Briarcliff, Manor, many places with white, rich homes and people and cars. And I thought, what is the name? And the kids didn't have shoes. And yet you have 16-year-old white kids that were going to private school and their parents just bought them a car. So I think that my need to be a part of the Black Power movement and my I would say, again, my need to be part of the Black Panther Party came as I noticed the disparities and that I felt that I needed to be a part of something that spoke to those disparities. Thus, reading the newspaper and then promising myself at 18 that I would go to California and I would be near where the newspaper there was printed, where Emily Douglas, the Minister of Arts and Culture, was. And at 18, I also knew that it would probably be a crucial time for me. I don't know how I knew this, but I knew that it was a crucial time for me to become what my mother said, marry and give me children, grandchildren. So I thought, I'm 18, what do I think about that? Let me pursue it. So the two things I knew, one, it was my opportunity to marry and give her grandchildren. And it was my opportunity to see just how important the Black Panther Party, the Black Power movement was going to be in my life. So I left at 18, got on a plane by myself, went to California, and shortly after that, I was a member of the Black Panther Party.
Did you get a chance to listen to hear any of the leaders of the party speak ever?
Yes. That's an interesting question. I did, in fact, work on the newspaper for a while in the photography department. And with that, I very often was assigned to work with those persons who were the iconic figures. So hearing them, yes, being with them, yes, and having a relationship with the persons that were leaders, as so many of people such as myself in the rank and file would have, and taking assignments from them and fulfilling the duties that we had within the rank that we had as foot soldiers. And so yes, the contact was there, hearing them was there, working in some peripheral manner with them. That was all there. And I think that was dependent on which particular cadre that you were assigned to. So when I worked in the photography cadre of the Black Panther Party newspaper, I was a person that, say, if Elaine Brown wanted me as the photographer for that day or that week. I was assigned and I was with her. And of course, Lynn Brown, prolific writer, person, and also a person with speeches that were of great import at that time. She, from my being around her, was someone I could, of course, be there to hear her. And then as we traveled to and from, I would be there in the car, and we could also talk. And those things were important and very nice to have that close proximity to leaders. But what was more important for myself and for many of the rank and file members was to be able to study the foundations of, well, why is it that there's a need for a grassroots movement? And what is the foundation that we should follow? There was not any manual that says, all righty, this is how you need to conduct yourselves. Your people that grew up in the neighborhood, your people that went to high school or didn't, you just returned from Vietnam, you were someone that recently had been imprisoned. So you have this variety of people that came together. And so we needed to have a couple of things that made us cohesive other than a fire and other than that burning desire to feed a child or to make things that are wrong right or to monitor the police. We needed to have a way to do it, principles that would allow us to execute the things that we needed to execute in order to do the things that we wanted to do. So for us, the rank and file members, hearing speeches, sure, that was nice. I would say that's on the one level of exposure that the general population had of the leaders. Then there was another level whereby you might have close contact, conversations, etc., how to get together, whatever. And then there was the why the heck are we here and how are we going to accomplish what we're going to accomplish. So the art of war, Mao Zedong, various revolutionary materials out there. But again, there was no manual for how does a Black person in America have a revolution, have a change, have the government do all the things that we thought should be done. We had a 10-point platform for that. So as a very young person, for about a decade, my maturation in my view of the world, in the political, social injustices, that was laid by the readings that we had, by actually working close together in collectives. I think that only if you're in the military do you experience that type of camaraderie, sharing, being able and willing to subordinate your own personal desires for a greater good. And in the military, you're taking orders, a lot of people, because they believe in the American way or in the way of whatever country they're serving a greater good. In a paramilitary organization like the Black Panther Party, that same type of discipline was there, but there also wasn't that manual that took the former Vietnam soldier, that took the person that was incarcerated and kind of de-beat them from those certain atrocities into a person that was able to come together with all the rest of us, myself being a Westchester girl who was very naive and clueless about so much. So for all of us to come together with all of those entanglements from having lived in racist America, there was nothing, no manual. They said, well, this is how you do it. This is how you come together. This is how you can leave over there all the things that you're fighting against. So it was a difficult period of time for so many, many reasons, but how rich an experience it was in lessons that, again, I believe only if you're in war or in organizations where weaponry, etc., are available to you, and where your mettle is tested.
Where in California did you operate in? Like what neighborhoods?
So I originally moved and worked in the Southern California area. And while I was there, almost immediately we went underground, and that was for several years. And then when I came back up, I went to Oakland, and then I was there for several years, and then another period away, and then back. So there were several cities, LA, and then Oakland, but we moved around a lot in the Southern California area. So there was, I remember one day, and I don't have a good sense of direction. I mean, now, if I go into Macy's and I see a bunch of sales and I grab this and go here and grab, ooh, sale, and I'll get everything together, put it in my shopping cart, go out to the parking lot, I can't find my car. I mean, there have been times when I had to ask the security person to let me go in the cart with them so I could find my car. So we're moving around a lot. And of course, I was young. There were so many things on my mind during the tasks at hand, etc. One day I couldn't figure out, well, now what house we in today? Where am I? So we pulled the car over and I'm looking at a map and I'm like, well, wait a minute. No, that was the other house. Where am I now? And a couple of comrades drove up and they saw me and they're like, come on. So it was an embarrassing moment, but it really allowed me to see that there was a certain disconnect with emotional and mental security that I had then because of moving so much and because there weren't a lot of people that you could just kind of decompress with and talk. And there was that courageous space you had to have. There, you certainly couldn't say, oh my gosh, I'm so confused. Where are we living now? We're moving again. I can't take my teddy bear or my red negligee. So there were all of the things that came up at certain times, but I didn't really know that they were manifestations of what it was that was happening with me and the instability of it all. So many different houses, a couple of different cities in Southern California, back up to Oakland, and a few houses in the Oakland Berkeley area, and then put those all together. And after about a decade, I did resign and leave the Black Panther Party.
Kashana, would you like to ask some questions?
Absolutely. Dale, you mentioned a bit earlier that you were a fearful reader, and then you sort of spoke about your transformation during your time with the Black Panther Party with reading different materials. And I was wondering, are there any sort of books that changed your worldview during this period of time where you became sort of less fearful of a reader?
I wouldn't say that there were any books that really changed me. I certainly thought that Che and Mao wrote things that applied to our situation. But to be honest with you, I had difficulty wrapping my head around people that were so far away that I knew I'd never meet. Um, it just, I couldn't relate to it in the way that I could relate to a fellow comrade sister explaining things to me and taking me under her wing and just letting me know how being a sister in the Black Panther Party is affecting your life and how there's a certain posture that you need to take doing that. That I could relate to. And I found that so much more helpful because it talked about the day-to-day activities. The books, very informational. They gave you information on strategy, on tactics, and the history part of it. It showed you how it is that the masses of the people might respond to one particular line, but no, it just didn't grab me the same way, and it definitely didn't change my life.
My second question is, you mentioned briefly the importance of grassroots movements and
What?
grassroots movements.
I didn't quite get it.
Grassroots movements.
Yes.
And I was wondering your sort of feelings or opinions toward the Black Lives Matter movement, which is a similar grassroots movement that is still continuing to challenge the experiences and the shortcomings of, Black lives in America.
Yes. One of the things that I would like to make certain to bring to the surface is how trans people, Black trans people, initiated Black Lives Movement. And the reason that's so important is because once the media and other nonprofit groups and liberals are in control of that narrative, they might have it be what they wish. And the actual people that founded it might be lost. And also the fact that the Black trans women, people that founded it, of them, one of which was murdered, is something that, again, most people may not be exposed to. So the women that founded that had a lot in common with the women that were leaders in the Black Panther Party and were informed about those things that we went through. There's a great saying with people of color, whose shoulders do you stand on? So Erica Huggins, a leader in the Black Panther Party, has been in communication with those sisters. To what extent, I don't know. At the time that they founded, I don't know. But queer people, Black women, trans people, have been vital in many of the movements and transitions that our country has had. Anything from the Harlem Renaissance, James Baldwin, Zora Neale Hurston, to the Black Lives Matter movement, which of course, as you just said, was community-based and grew from all of the lynchings that were going on, but we need to look at who formed it and what alliance they had or have with the Black Panther Party, the women that were there at that time, and connections with gender, etc., if you wish.
Thank you so much. Those are my questions.
Who were some of the leaders in the Black Panther movement or the Black Power movement that you looked up to?
think that there's a phrase I became familiar with while in the party because I came familiar with this because so many of the children were named after leaders and people of that time that were admired. And you would name your child, let's say, Max. And then a year or two later, Max had absconded and the child was left there. Max decided to take a corporate position. So here you are, you have a child named Max. Max is no longer around and looks very different than he did before. And that might go on with a few different children. So then the saying was, never name a child after someone that's alive. Because human nature is such that you will change, you'll evolve, devolve, you will change. And with that understanding, you can be kind and mature and know that no person is really able to take on the position of being the perfect person, perfect leader, the person that's able to have all the answers to all the questions, or someone that you need to have on a platform above you. Huge, huge mistake. Once you do that, which is close to your question, but running near it, once you do that, you run the risk of having your task, your cadre, your whole movement usurped and then taken by other people. So you give your loyalty to a figure. That figure may go left some days, and you're like, okay, there you go right there. Okay. But the going left or right was not about why you committed your life, your money, your car, yourself, and your children to the cause. And then maybe that person at some point won't even be there, or they will have transformed to a completely different person that you could not have seen. And there you are, without someone that you can respect or even know anymore. So that puts everyone in a vulnerable place. Certainly, leaders must be there, but to idolatrize, hello? That person is so wrong, so very, very wrong. And then that person may be in communication with other organizations, other nonprofits, or other persons that may have good intentions, or even philanthropic arms of other organizations that want to help and do good things, Black Lives Matter, etc. But then the monies that they give, or the whatever they give, they have stipulations. And those stipulations, again, can have you with your original grassroots thoughts taken to another place. Those stipulations could be anything from the times that you're allowed to have your center open, where you can have one, when you can or cannot be identified out. And those stipulations minimize your original thoughts that you went in there with. So for an organization and a person to be all that they can be, one of the best things is not allow yourself to be hypnotized by any leader. Admire? I don't know. I don't know. It seems to me it's more important to forgive the leaders, to forgive them their faults, to allow yourself to be intelligent enough to know that they will have failings and that you may have to even be part of activities that either support them in their failings or make their failings minimized. So I think that having the ability to forgive leaders is something that I would like to have and to say I have within myself, as opposed to admiring. And even then, even though I couldn't put it into words, I just knew I had to try to do the best I could to look past the things that I knew were not right.
What does Black History Month mean to you?
So certainly many things on paper are excellent. The Quran, the Bible, the Pentateuch, you named so many things on paper, they're wonderful. And those things that they espouse are great. You add the human element, and it begins to be something totally different. It's jacked up and monetized and owned by persons that were not even considered in the original concept. So on paper and as a thought, it has many, many benefits to Black people and others.
Is there anything that you would like to add that we didn't ask about?
Women.
Mhm.
There is too little that is documented, written on, portrayed about women. So in the Bible, there's Ruth and Esther, and you have the ability to think that either women didn't exist or they weren't worthy of being written about. And then you have movies and cinema. Let's see, Spike Lee and the Black Panther. And now there's a recent film. So in the world of cinema, you could think, either sisters hadn't been invented or they didn't play a relevant role. So in so many areas that make major contributions to America and the world, women are overlooked. There's the miseducation to the world about the importance of women, about their contributions, about how they held the backbone of whatever movement it was. They were pregnant while they were marching and going out. They had to handle guns while they had to figure out when to breastfeed their children. They had to back people in terms of their loyalty, who perhaps were either misogynistic or just not evolved as a person towards women. So women are overlooked from sacred scriptures to recent movies to a point where it's inhumane. And without the understanding of whose shoulders we're standing on, we won't have the right respect that we need to have for that. You have to know. If you don't know your past, you're bound to repeat it And if you made mistakes, you won't have an opportunity to turn them around. Know what the women did, know what the women are doing, and do your research. Find out just how important women were in each aspect of any movement that occurred. So, for myself, as a woman during that time, many, many, many things that I know the general public aren't aware of that I was engaged in, and my comrade sisters around me, the leaders that were iconic figures that were women in Black Lives Matter, and how many of the women and queer women now are sustaining that. And it's a sad loss to this country and to the world that more isn't known about the sacrifices, the courage, the duality, and the role of being a strong person outward and a nurturing mom, a breastfeeding person. And we need to address that.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for participating in this project, and thank you for sharing your story with us. I'm glad you're able to join us today. Kashana, do you want to add any questions or anything?
No, I just want to reiterate what Mike said about thanking you for your time, but also reminding us about the important role that women play in various movements, but even in our everyday lives. That's something that I hope when people listen to your story, they go out and do research so that they learn more about that as well.
Yes.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity. And if nothing else, I hope that people take away a sense of encouragement from all that we've done, and that in some manner, it's also a cautionary tale that if you are a woman, a strong woman, or one that carries weapons, that there may be bad things that happen. So take those messages.